Did I ever tell you that I've written books like creative writing? Go and search for Imran Siddiq on Amazon and you'll find them on Kindle and as a not downloadable, as a readable paperback book as well. But what about if we want to create a author website? So maybe you're an author or a writer and you want to promote yourself for your books, whether you're traditionally published or self-published or indie publishing. Or maybe your niche area or your business is to create author websites. How can we do that? So what we're going to do is create a one-page website. It's going to be pretty simple, nothing extravagant, but it's going to show off, say, the author, what they've written, some books, how you could buy them on Amazon or Apple or anything like that with links and a contact form. So keeping it really simple, but a one-page website. Now, before we do that, because we are using Elementor for this, Elementor Pro, I just want to point out a few things. Obviously, make sure you're using as least plugins as possible if you care about page speed performance. And make sure you've custom loaded your font. So I've gone and custom loaded the Lato font. It's really easy to do this. You just go to custom fonts over here, hit add new. Then what you would do is you would type in the name and then you would go and add in your variable fonts over here. So I've gone and added in quite a few sizes just to get what I want. Once you've done that, go and hit update and make sure they're all pulled through. Don't use Google Fonts all the time or what comes installed already in Elementor, because you might not realize this, but you're fetching from Google and that can breach GDPR and slow down your website a tiny bit, but it does affect your page speed performance. So watch out for that. Now, once you've done that, you want to go in and create your page. Now, this is a page I've called Author, not very original, I know, but let's not go there. And then what I've done is I've gone over to site settings. Now, if you're not sure about that, go into your page or wherever you are, go over to the hamburger and then click Site Settings and then go to Global Colors. I've gone and set my color palette. My color palette is quite browny, a little bit of orange over there, and then I've got a various other slightly pastel-y colors, highlighting colors. The reason I've gone for this palette is because it fits with the style of images that I've gone and got from Canva. And all the images I'm going to bring through, I've lifted from Canva. I did a search for like writers or serious people, and I found quite a good sequence of images. And I found that these colors relate a lot to those images I'm going to bring in. So go and set your color palette. The second thing you want to do after that is go and set your global font. Now, all I do here is in every single one of these, I just go in and pick Lato because that's the custom font I loaded in. And all you do is just make sure you're picking it from here, custom fonts. That's all you got to do. Then what you want to do is in your typography, this is where you would now set your sizes. So this is where you might say H1 is going to be a certain size on the desktop, the tablet and the mobile. But I'm going to show you another way of doing that in a moment. But let's just get through all of this. So in typography, you don't need to set anything except the link. Now in the link, I'm going to change this to be this accent color, and I'm going to ensure that there is nothing picked for the typography and there's nothing picked over there. So in link, typography, all I've done is set the color, and you can see the color changed there. Let me now hit update. Now then, let me now go back onto the font bit. This website, and there will be a link to this in the video description, is going to allow us to basically set the font size clamp code. Now, what is this all about? You will know by using Elementor that if you go and set a size, let's just pretend you go with 30 pixels for the desktop and 20 pixels for the tablet and 10 pixels for the mobile. 10's quite small, but let's say you went for that. As you increase or shrink your page, you'll go 30, jump to 20, jump to 10. There's a jump. It never goes 30, 29, 28 as you're shrinking the screen. It will be 30, 20, 10. There's a jump. The font size clamp will actually allow you to shrink and grow with the size of your screen. So you'll literally see your font going like that. It will, proper. There won't be the step but change. Okay. Now we're going to drop in a little bit of code, and here's where we're going to pop that code. When you go to your site settings, down here where we have custom CSS, we're going to drop it in over here. However, I'm going to say, let's just wait a moment. And once I know what we're playing with on screen, then we can determine that as to how it's going to be. But just to get things started, I am going to do one little thing. I'm going to type in HTML. I'm going to put a curly bracket. Let me type that out. Yep, HTML. Curly bracket, and I'm going to say font size with the colon, and I'm going to say 10 pixels, semicolon, like that. What that now means is that one REM is equal to 10 pixel, because normally in Elementor and a lot of other systems, one REM is 16 pixel. So now that I know that my HTML root HTML is 10 pixel, if I do 2 REM, that is 20 pixel. 1.5 REM is 15 pixel. It makes it easier. And if this is a bit confusing for anyone, you can skip all of this and jump straight into where we start building the page. But I think it's a good practice to get this in hand. So we're just going to leave that as it is for now, like that. Now let's start bringing in our images into the media library, and I strongly recommend, rather than using a lot of plugins that you can add to your website, you drag your image in and then it does a bit of conversion or compression. They can be slow and they don't always work efficiently or as good as you think they can do. It's much better for you to use a website called bulkresizephotos.com. This is a super free website. You can't use it on Chrome or Safari, you got to use Edge, but that shouldn't bother anyone. And all you're going to do is pick your images and convert them to be WebP. WebP is so much better for page speed performance. I seriously recommend you do that. I'm going to go to choose images, and I'm now going to go over to my downloads folder. I already have a folder over here called authors, and I'm basically going to pick a load of images and logos and things I've created there. Look, a lot of them are quite big. There's various sizes here, but a lot of them, look, there's a 2.3, I think there's a 3 megabyte one as well somewhere in here. So let me just hit open. Now, as soon as you do that, it now says, what do you want to do with it? Well, we're not going to change the size. Any size changings, any like cropping or scaling, making them smaller, I will do that in the media library. I just want to get the images in. I'm also going to convert them to be WebP, and I'm totally fine with it being 80% image quality. I then hit start. You saw how many images I was loading through, right? And this is all happening real time. So what we've now done, can you see this? We've gone from 49 megabytes to 1.7. We'll click add new, select files, and I'm now going to ensure that I've got the new bulk resize photos folder, which is this one here. And we're now going to dump all of these in like that. Trust me, if you care about your size of your page in terms of file sizes, you really want to be doing this with your images. Otherwise, you're making your page very, very heavy. Okay, and you can see I've got some fake books that I've actually created in Canva as well. These are fake books. I've got a background. I've removed the background for one, and I've got some logos and stuff like that. Right, let's now go back over to our page. I am going to just hit the X there, and I'm just going to hit publish. And I'm probably going to refresh the page as well, just to make sure it's pulled through all the images. Don't assume your images are pulled through if the page is already open. Now then, let's start building the page. And I'm sorry for all the background information I've reeled off there, probably at lightning speed. But I wanted to get you to understand the importance of custom fonts, your global colors, your global fonts, typography for your link, and bulk resize photos for your images. Now you're good to go. Okay, let's just close that down. First thing we're going to do is go down to the settings, which is down in the bottom left. We're going to click that, and because this is a one-page website, I don't really need a header or a footer. So I'm not going to create a header template or a footer template or anything like that. We're just going to do it on the fly with a one-page layout. So I'm going to say first thing is hide the title. I don't need to see that. And the second thing I'm going to do is say, give me an Elementor canvas like that. And now I'm going to hit update. So if there was any header or footer applied to any other pages on this website, that is now removed. By the way, this is my test website that I use for creating tutorials. And there's probably about 50 headers in production all around on this website. It's very, very laborious, this website. But hey, it works for me. What we're now going to do, and by the way, we are using containers, Flexbox containers that we have activated in our experiments in Elementor. By the way, that's over down here. If you go to Elementor, you go to settings, you go to experiments, you will see the option for Flexbox container. Everything I do here, you could do in section and columns as well. The only reason I'm doing Flexbox container is because it's the flavor of the month or the year or whatever it is now, and I feel you really do need to get used to using it. So let's just go in and create a basic header. All this is going to contain is a logo, some social sharing icons, and a menu. Now the menu in actual fact is because it's a one-page website, the menu is going to be like a menu anchor system. So when you click, it takes you down to various items on the page. So we're not using your traditional navigation menu, you know, the ones down here where you would go over to appearance and menu. We're not using that. We're actually going to add in like a fake one, but it will be anchored into parts of your page, and this will become clear, and it is super easy, but we're going to leave that to the end after we've built up the contents. So the first thing we're going to do is add in a single column like that. This is going to be a full width column. It's going to be a row direction. What that means is that when I add items in, they sit one after another because they're in a row. If you leave it as the default like that, it will traditionally be a columnar, which means as you add things in, they go underneath one another. So let's just put that back onto row. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is drag in an image like that, and I'm going to go and pick my logo. Here it is. Now, you're not going to see the logo. The reason you can't see the logo is because it's white, okay, and we have a transparent background. So for the purposes of this, until I change it, I'm just going to go and make this be dark for now so you can see it. It is called Web Squadron, because that's the name of the author. Get it? See what I did there? But anyway, it's called Web Squadron, okay? I'm going to go over to my image, and I'm going to set the resolution to be full. I strongly recommend you always go for full because you want the best resolution there is. I'm just going to make sure it's left aligned. There will be no caption and there'll be no link other than, I mean, what you could do in honesty is you could just set this to always be to the home page or the top of the page if you had a menu anchor in there. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's not a bad idea. Set your logo to always go back to the home page. Let's go over to style. Now, in the pixel size, this image, I believe, was 300 pixels wide. Yes, it is. So if I go for 250, you'll see it now shrinks down. I am actually going to go to 250 there, just because I think it works a little bit better. Now let me show you what happens when I add in another item. So we're going to go for social icons. You'll be used to items sitting below one another as you add them in, but because we've selected row for our container, our parent container, look, right? They sit side by side. This is what you would have seen normally, traditionally, but this is what happens now. And for the purpose of this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time like stylizing this too much just to make it look good, is I'm going to go over and I'm going to say, ensure that this is now, I mean, by the way, it doesn't matter whether I stick circular or rounded, because for each of these, and by the way, imagine that these were proper icons now that were going somewhere. So let's just go for LinkedIn, for instance. Okay, let's just do that, hit insert. You would obviously go in and put in the link for where these need to go, and also make a decision on, is this going to open in a new window? I would recommend you do that because you don't want them to get to the website, click it and disappear off into LinkedIn world or anywhere else. So I would say let them click it to find you or whoever, but enable it to just be open in a new window. So let's pretend we're setting this up for the author. I'm now going to go over to style and I'm going to say, give me a custom color. I'm going to set the primary color. In fact, there is going to be no primary color, is there? So let me just go and pick white or something like that and make it transparent, because I am going to get rid of this color later on. I don't want to do it just yet, but I will be getting rid of it at some point in the future. Once we've done the icon, by the way, if you did want to change the secondary color as well like that, you could do. I mean, I do have some highlighted colors that are a bit brighter, but for the purpose of what we're doing here, I'm going to leave it white, but I am going to change the size, and I'm going to go with something like about 20. We'll go with 20 like that. You will notice, for anyone who's keen or can see it, these are not in line with the logo. They're slightly raised up. Okay, let's just go over to the container. Can you see here now? We haven't done any alignment yet. So if I now hit center, can you see it move down? Let me watch this. Look, that goes down. That goes up. That is now in the middle. I know it doesn't look like it completely is, but trust me, that is now in the middle. Okay, so we've kind of aligned our items. However, we now have everything sitting on the left-hand side. I could do this and put it in the center, the right. I could do space between, which is what I am going to do, by the way. I could do space around or space evenly, but we're just going to go for space between, so everything is now pushed out. However, that now means that everything is right up against the side. And you might say, let me just adjust my screens. I've noticed a bit of it is getting cut off there. There we go. So everything is right up against the sides, and we seem to have a little bit of padding. That's because containers and even sections, they always add a little bit. I have to be honest, I don't like that. So what I like to do is 0, everything out. So now everything is right up against the sides, and I like to control how that is. So staying on the container, I'm going to go over to my padding, and I'm going to go with 20 and 20 on the left, and I'm going to go with about 5 and 5 like that. It's kind of not that dissimilar to what we had before, but I like to have perfect control over the layout, especially when I move into like tablet mode or mobile mode. I don't want the system to be guessing for me. I like to do it my way. Right, so we now have our header and we have some of these icons. Now, before you move on to the next section or container, which would be your hero banner, where you're now going to try and get over your keywords and a call to action and something to pull in the viewer as to why they want to stay on this website, I strongly recommend that you hit the responsive mode down here and go over to mobile, because this is what we see. And the way I like to work is get every container perfect before you move on to the next one. Get the first one perfect, and you might be able to follow the logic later on. If you do a whole page with 5 or 6 containers and now you're going back to modify them to work for the mobile, you're just setting yourself up with loads of extra work. Get it right from the get-go. Over here we have a width. I'm going to change that to be 378 because that's the standard for an iPhone XR. So I like to cover all bases there, even though phone sizes are bigger, but this works for me. Now what we have though is this issue whereby we have the logo and we have the social sharing icons. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go over to the logo now, and I'm going to go over to style, and remember we are in mobile mode, and I'm going to set this to be 150, and we can see it works absolutely fine. I'm pretty sure I can go a little bit bigger, so I bet I can go to 175. Yeah, we'll go to 175. This still inherits the 5 and the 20 that we set for the desktop. I'm going to zero that all out, and I'm now going to adjust this. So we're still going to have a 5 there, but I'm only going to go with a 10 now like that, because I feel like the 20 is a bit too much. Now, for content, I will always go for 20, but for the header, I think that works pretty well. And you can decide if you want to make those icons a little bit smaller. I would say they're still a reasonable size, and I would keep it at that. Don't forget to hit update or publish as you go along with building your website, because everything is web-based and you don't want it to crash. I can tell you now, in 3 years, I've only had a crash situation twice. And I'm using Elementor and other systems every day. And that just was there was a failure somewhere, but twice in 3 years. That's pretty good going, okay? In 37 months, to be exact. Right, let's now add in another container. Here's something you could do. You could either duplicate the container above, get rid of the content, add your own contents in, or you could just start afresh. So I'm just going to, for now, start afresh with a new container. I'm going to make this container be a boxed width, and I'm going to set the pixels of this to be 1000. Why have I done that? Well, if I go for a boxed width and I add in contents, if I'm not careful with my margins and padding, my text might be right way over there on the left-hand side of the screen. What I'm saying is I want the content, no matter how big your screen, to kind of be centrally to your viewpoint in a way, so you can see the keywords rather than, oh, I've got to read here, now I've got to read that, and now I've got to go back over and back there. You know, it gets a little bit, you're asking the reader to do quite a lot here. Okay, so 1000 pixels. Now, in terms of the height, I'm going to go to VH, viewport height. If you put in 100, that is the full height of the screen now. If you go for 50, it's 50% of the screen, okay? 25%. For now, I am actually going to go with something like 60. I might adjust that when we come back onto it. Now, I am going to set a background image. Well, sorry, let me just double check. There's a few other things we need to do. At the moment, this is defaulting to column, and we have not set the direction or anything yet. We'll come back onto that in a moment. The first thing we're going to do is set the background for this. So we're going to go to style for the background, and rather than setting a color, I'm actually going to pick a image, and I'm going to go for this image here, and I'm just going to insert it. Now, when you insert any image, it's going to look very like all over the place, all right? But that's going to be fine once you set it. So we'll go to position, a fixed background. So as you move up and down, you know, it's almost fixed in place. So the words will move up and down over it like a parallax effect. I'm going to set it to be no repeat, and I'm going to set the size of this to be a cover. I've gone and changed my image because I actually prefer this one now to what I had before. I love doing that. I just make things up as I go along sometimes. Obviously, if you got a design with your spec or with your client, you probably won't have that luxury unless they give you a bit of freedom. But what we're going to have is this menu that we have here is going to overlap over this image here, okay? Now, to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is go back over to my container number 1. I'm going to go to my style and I'm going to clear away. Let me just do that again. Clear there. I'm going to clear away the color. I'm also going to ensure that it's completely transparent either way, okay? Now, you can't see any of the contents because they are like right at the top there. So what we're now going to do is go to container 2. And by the way, there is something else you do need to do. I'm going to go to container 1. And I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, and I'm going to say make the Z index of container number 1, the very first one. I'm going to say give me a container value of 2. And container number 2, give me a Z index value of 1. So that now means that the first container has a higher overlap than container 2. Z index basically is the stages of layering. 1 is the lowest, 9,999 is the highest. What I recommend you do is go over to your navigator, which is down here. And where we have these 2 containers at the moment, just go and rename them. So I'm going to call this one header container like that. And I'm going to call this one hero container, just so you know what you're working with. Now we're going to click on the hero container. Remember, this is a Z index of 1, which is lower than the header container. And if I now go over here to where we have the margin, if I now start to do this, where I put a negative top margin, by the way, if you were to put in a positive value, it moves the container down. We don't want to do that. I'm now going to do this. And I'm basically just shrinking it until we get to the top, something like that. And you can basically now see that that container is overlapping our current one. You can now see the height has lost a bit of its height because we've moved it upwards. So we're going to go back to the hero container, go to the layout, and I'm now going to change this to be 75. So what we now get is something like that. And as you scroll up and down, which will be doable when we add in further containers, the contents there are all going to overlap until you get to the next one. Right, let's now go over to adding in some items into our hero container. The first thing we're going to do is just make sure we're clicked on the hero container, is we're going to drop in a heading. Now, as soon as we do the heading, it's actually gone and jumped up over here to the top. You can just about see it. So let's go back to our hero container and let's just say, okay, we're currently on a columnar structure. I actually want it to be on a row structure and I want everything to be in the middle. There we go. It's now in the middle. I also want everything to be set to be to the start. Otherwise, if you did this, it would move to the middle. Over there would take it over to the right-hand side. So I want everything to be on left aligned and I want it in the middle. We are going to start wrapping things, but I'm going to show you that in a moment. So 4 times national award-winning author. Flipping X sounds like a horse, doesn't he? I'm going to go to style. I'm going to make sure this is a white font. Now, if we go over to our typography, it is already going to be using the Lato, the default font that we loaded into global fonts. If you use the sizes for desktop, tablet, mobile, like, you know, if you were to go to font, REM, for instance, if I do 1, that's 10 pixels, because we set our root HTML to be 10 pixels. If I go with 2, that's 20 pixels, 3, 30 pixels, etc. You're going to get a jump as you go as you shrink the screen, and I don't want to have that. I want to have it naturally shrink and grow as we move up and down. Now, rather than me setting my sizes in here at the moment, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this font size clamp generator, and I'm going to say that my minimum font size when we hit the 400 point, you know, and that's kind of hitting into the mobile. You could set it at 500 to be honest, but I'll just go with 400. I want my smallest to be 3 REM. You can use pixel as well, but I'm using REM. And I want the maximum to be 5, and the maximum kicks in when the size hits 1,000 pixels. So if your screen resolution width is 2,000 pixels, you'll be hitting the 5 REM. When you hit the 400, you will now be 3 REM. But between 400 and 1000, or to be precise, 401 and 999, you will be between 3 and 5, and it scales up and down really nicely. Now you see this bit of code over here. What you're going to do is pick up that code. You copy it. It's completely free, this, okay? Now we go over to our page, just hit update. And I'm now going to go over to my hamburger site settings, and I'm going to go to my custom CSS. Now, I've already put down here HTML font size 10 pixel. By the way, look what would happen if I put this as 16. Can you see how that's changed? If I set that to 1, you can see the text there, but it's ultra tiny, right? Let's leave that as a 10. Now down here, because we're going to be using a, I think that was a H2, wasn't it? I'm just going to, no, it's a H, in fact, no, we'll switch it to a H1. I'm going to switch it back to a H1. I'm going to say H1, curly bracket, and now I paste that code. And now I put curly bracket again. So that is all we do. H1, and that's all we do. Let's now hit update. Let's just hit the X on there. And now if I click on this and ensure that this was a H1, can you see that now? It's automatically flipped up to that side. Can you see the font is like increasing and decreasing gradually? So it's a big tip I definitely recommend you want to consider doing if you take your sizing all pretty seriously. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of that heading, and I'm going to call that one a header 2 now. I'm going to add some further text. So I've gone and added in another subheader, and we're going to kind of do the same thing again here. This time I'm going to go over to my font size, and I'm now going to say actually for H2 make it be a 2, and we're going to go with the 4. So again, I get a little bit of text over there, go back over to my page, just going to hit update. Oh, by the way, I mean, I don't need to worry about the style of the colors because I've just duplicated the H1 so it remembers the typography, which was Lato anyway, and the color of white. Let's just go over here to site settings. Let's go to custom CSS. And I'm now just going to do a H2 open bracket, curly bracket, close. Basically, that's it. H2, curly bracket, dump that bit of text in, and you can see there it's now gone and modified it. Now I can clearly see, but that is now looking probably a little bit too big in terms of the font sizing. So let me now go back to my font generator, and let me go with a 3.5 and a 1.8 like that. Let me now copy that code. Let's go back over here and let's just replace what we have there with that. And that's now looking a little bit better. You can modify your letter spacing, your line spacing and all of that. I could even, if I want, go over to, let me just close that, my H1, go down there and just set my typography to be all uppercase, for instance. So now it looks a lot more domineering than what we got. Now the problem we have is that we've now got our text side by side because our container over here at the moment, sorry, make sure you're on the right container, by the way, the hero container. Everything is set as a row. It's set in the center, but we've got a bit of overlap. What we're going to do is activate the wrap. When you have rows, you can have things side by side, but you can also wrap them. Now, when we do wrap, this happens. And don't worry too much about that because it's a little bit annoying when that happens, okay, because things now get spread out. Super easy to sort out. Down here where it says align content, and sometimes people don't realize it's this option, you start messing around with margins and paddings. I don't want everything to be like that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say center. Everything is now back in the center. But I'm actually going to be a little bit controversial here. And I'm going to say I want it to be flex start. So now everything is pushed up to the start. And you're probably looking at this and going, why have you gone and done that for? Now you're overlapping with the menu. Don't worry, my friends. This is really easy. I'm going to go to my advanced tab. And I'm now going to say, give me some padding of about 100 pixels, something like that. I could go with 150 to be honest, but I'm going to go with 100. Now before you move on, my tip is to check how is this going to look on the mobile. So it now inherits the 100. Are you okay with that? Yeah, okay, I kind of am, but notice how the wording is now pushed up against the left and the right hand side. So I'm going to go back in over here, just put in 100 there, and I'm going to say give me 20 on the left and 20 on the right. Now we do have a slight problem here in that the wording is overlapping with the person. However, You could add in a gradient overlay if you wanted to. You could add in a background color to this. You could add in a shadow effect. You would modify this accordingly. This actually still kind of works for me quite well, even though you got this bit here with the A over there. And if I just do 378, in fact, it's still kind of working, except I don't like the word the winning has now moved over. So I'm in the mobile mode. I'm going to click on my heading, which is heading number 1. Go to my advanced, and I'm going to say the right hand margin, give me about 50, something like that. That's all I needed to do, just to make sure the word winning went onto the other line. Now the wording we have over here, this is pretty illegible, if that makes sense. You know, you can't really read it very well. So I'm going to go to my advanced tab now. Sorry, I'm going to go to, the advanced tab for my heading. Go down to where we have background, and I am going to give this a background color. I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to say, give me a dark color like that, but just make it be a little bit transparent. Let's just drop that down. So something like that. And that kind of works okay for me now. You could modify that, give it a bit more padding, make it breathe a little bit more. Basically what I mean by that is, if you were to now go over to this heading, go to layout, and you were to go and do something like, let's just do this 50, 50, just so you can see what I mean. It's now spaced it out a bit more. In fact, we will just go with 5 and 5 there, just so we get a bit breathing space there. Now, when we go back over to the desktop, you will notice that we now have that background overlay over here as well. And look, it's completely crossing over his face. That's not kind of that great or stylish. So let's now try and sort that out. If you go to background though, the problem you have over here is that it's going to apply it regardless unless you put in a bit of CSS. Now, I've already showed you the font size clamp. I don't want to complicate anything too much. So in a really, really simple, easy way, here's what I recommend you do. Go to layout. I'm just going to give this a bit of padding again on the top. 5, sorry, let me get rid of the left and right there, 0 and 0. So we have a bit there. What I'm now going to do is go over to my let me get this right. Go to my advanced tab for the heading, and I'm now going to set the width to be custom, and I'm just going to basically shrink it to be, I don't know, something like that. In fact, I'll probably go with something like that. Okay, so 4 times National Award winning author, writer of fantasy novels, blah, 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 blah. I am now going to modify the heading as well. Sorry if it feels like I'm jumping around a bit, but you will get used to what I'm doing here. So I've now added in some content and I'm modifying it to kind of work for what we want. Again, the advanced tab, we're going to set the width of this to also be custom. So now I'm going to basically just shrink this to be something like, I think that works there. There you go, 4 times National Award winning author. Again, I've now changed it so that we didn't have as much overlapping onto the author's page or face even. Now, one thing I will say though is that the weighting of this second header is a little bit too strong. Let's just go to style. Let's just drop that down because it inherited what we had above. Let's just put it down. Well, let's just check what the 3 would be. No, that's way too weak, right? Let's go with there with a 400. So we're slightly just shrinking it down a tiny bit. Now, when you look at this at the moment, this is a center image. Do you remember when we set the background up? I'm going to change that now. Go to Hero Container, go to Style, Center Left. Now, when I click that, it's going to show us more of the left side of the image. Therefore, he'll move to the right. Whereas if I had clicked right, you would have seen him move more into the center and we would have lost more of the left-hand side. So now we get something like that. And I know it still expands up, but we don't get as much overlap as what we were getting before. Great. Now let's add in a call to action button. Again, we're just going to grab a button and I'm going to drop it in. Now, as soon as you add in your button, it goes beside the other item. The reason it's done that, okay, is because we made this be a custom width. And I am going to undo this. Now, again, you're going to say, well, why did you do it in the first place then? It's to get you to understand how you can use the widths of the advanced tab to modify how wide it is. But then you're going to find yourself, you get a problem like this. Now, of course, you might say, well, why did I even go for this layout? I should have just gone for a columnar layout. Yes, you could do as well, but I do strongly recommend you go for the row one, especially if you ever want to have like multiple items side by side with like 2 call to actions. So let's just go to this button at the moment. Let me just go to the style of it, and we're going to give this a text color of white. His latest books. And we're going to go to style. Now, for the buttons, sometimes I'm a little bit particular about how I set them, so I might not always do the size changes as what I was doing here with whether you're on a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile, how it starts to shrink or increase. And I'm just going to go in with REM, and I'm just going to go with a 1.6 for now. And I'm going to set this to be an uppercase like that. See his latest books. I'm actually going to give this a little bit of letter spacing as well. In fact, I'm going to increase the size to a 1.7. Right, let's get that now below the second heading. I've already gone and set the width of heading 2 over here. And if I do that to push it to the next line, well, now we're in overlap world. Well, don't worry about that, okay? I'm going to set it to be 100% to force it to be overlap. I'm now going to go over to my margin. I'm going to say on the right-hand side, 40. So 40% on the right-hand side, it now basically does not put any text over on that side of it because we're not allowing it to go all the way. If you had set it to be, say, 10%, it would still go, but it stops at 10%. But I'm going to go with 40. So now everything pushes down and the button is where it is. Look, here's the reason why I'm saying you want to do this. If I now duplicate this, can you now see we've got a button side by side? That's how easy it is to do. And you could have as many items as you want, side by side, underneath one another. If I was to go, well, actually, I want this button to be over here. Okay, fine, I'll go to this one. I'll go to advanced. I'll go to the custom width. And I'll go, yeah, all right, then let's just rearrange it. But look, the button hasn't filled that area, which is what traditionally happens when you start to increase the width. It's creating this like vacuum between them. And I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want that. But this is how you can start to control exactly where it sits on screen. Now, I am going to, what we'll do is we will have a second button, ask him a question. Rather than contact him, which always feels a little bit defeatist, right? Ask him a question. And that's going to link to a separate area on our page. Now, on button 2, I am going to add in a bit of margin of about 20, and I'm going to do the same for button 2 as well, because I just want to push them away a tiny bit from the items above. Let's just quickly check how this looks on the mobile. Now, our hero container at the moment, here's where when I was talking about how it looks on mobile and how you need to make it right, it becomes much more relevant now when you've got your content on. So we've got our wording, where we adjusted the width of it. We've got this bit here. We've got this as well, and we've got a button underneath. This is where you now have to make a decision over, are you now going to make these buttons be closer? So if I just get rid of any values that we had there for the desktop, I don't want the mobile to inherit it. I want them to be closer up. In fact, this button as well here, I want it to be closer up to the top. So whatever margin and padding you set for your desktop, you can overwrite it for the mobile, okay? So please don't think you can't do that. You can do whatever you want. What we will do, though, on the hero container is I am going to give this about we'll go about 50 there. I'm going to give it a bit of spacing there. Now, the obvious problem is the imagery, okay? Can you see here, the imagery? Just look at it. What it does is it inherits the desktop image, and you never, ever want to do this. On your hero banner, you want to have a modified image, and this is so important. I cannot stress this enough. If you care about page speed performance, you need to use a different image, and Elementor allows you to choose that separate image. Here's how you do it. What you want to do, let me just hit update first. You want to go over to your media library, and you want to identify that image that you use, and it's basically this image here over here. And this is the image file 18. Obviously have proper names. Don't use what I do with numbers because I just pulled it through off Canva. I am now going to add a copy of this image. If you haven't got the original version of this image, you got the URL here, copy the URL. You can then open the image in another window, download it and add it back. Let's just go over here first and let's just go to add new, select files, and we're going to go for image 18 and bring that over, and it's over here now. I'm now going to click the image and I'm going to edit it in terms of scale and size. I'm going to turn it from a horizontal image into a portrait. Let's do that. Let's go to edit image, and the first thing I'm going to do is scale it to be no more than 700 in height. Hit scale. Once you've done that, hit X. Don't crop it until you've gone back in. If you go into it at the same time, it forgets that you've scaled it. Now go back in and look at it as scaled it. Now hit edit image. Now hit crop, and I'm just going to drag that over there. As soon as I've done that, and I'm just going to move myself. As I move these values, you're going to start to see they change down here. I'm going to change this one to be 500. So now you can see I've got my little window. So I'm going to go with something like that over there. And I'm going to hit crop. There is my new image that I now have. I hope that makes sense. And then hit save. Right, let's now go back over to our page. And here's where, after you've updated it, refresh the page. Now when you go over to your mobile now, over here, and I go to my hero container, style, I'm now going to click here to choose my image, and I'm now going to pick the new image. Look at it, it's a portrait image. It is a portrait image, 500 by 699. I never understand why WordPress does this. Even after I've picked 700, it knocks one off, but I don't care. I'm fine with it. And now, look at the image. You can now see the person's face, but I'm actually going to just change it a bit to be center, so bring him in a little bit like that. Let's just go with 378. And basically, we now have our kind of like hero banner, which is looking okay because we've got our author. He's on the screen. It looks quite good, I think. I think it's a really good image I picked there. And on the desktop, we still have the original landscape version. So we've not lost anything. Right, let's now hit update. I'm happy with the buttons. I mean, I could have, if I wanted to, gone in and decreased the size of these fonts to try and get two buttons side by side. But when you look at it, I would have had to shrunk them quite a bit. And I feel like you want the person to see it, click it, you know, convert basically, or if it was a shop or something like that. Let's now go in and start building in our second section. Now, to make things easier for myself, I'm actually going to use a container with two containers within, because I'm going to have like an image and some buttons underneath. And if I did it in one container, I know I could just about get away with it with some custom width and maneuverment, but it can end up being a little bit messy, especially when you move on to the mobile. So I'm going to go with a container like that. I'm just going to go in and make this have a background color for starters, and I'm going to give it something like, we're going to go with that color there, a little bit dark. Go back to our layout. I'm going to make it be 1,000. By the way, this is a container with two containers within, okay? And you can whatever you would do with a parent container in terms of alignment, row, column, and all of that, you can do the same with each individual one as well. So they are quite powerful. Now, I am going to just drop in a text editor in first of all, and I'm going to drop in a little bit of text. The text there is completely unreadable, even if I was to go to style and make that be white like that. It's a 400 weight. You know, I'm not going to change the size or anything like that at the moment, because we're using a root HTML10. So if I go to update, and I go to site settings, remember over here, custom CSS, we're using a root HTML of 10. If I go in and put in a P and a curly bracket, over here in my font size, I've already typed in a size of 1.45 for the smallest it will ever be, and 1.65 for the biggest it will ever be. And I'm going to copy that code. And if I go back over here, I'm going to pop that in, and you can clearly see straight away the text size has changed over there. So on a smaller screen, it will go to 14.5. I mean, 14.5, yeah, you know, I think 14.5 is probably too small thinking about it now. I mean, looking at it on the mobile, it's actually not too bad. So the 14.5 we will go with. But what it's basically done now is put in the size for the paragraph, your text. That's why I put in the P. And that's why I won't go and create in the font size clamp generated, you know, codes or whatever, the H3, H4, H5, unless I'm using them. And if I'm not using them, I'll just make it up as I go along. Or if I want to control what I'm doing, I'll stick it in here. It's entirely up to you. Seriously, it's entirely up to you. What we're going to do though now is, now that we've done that, is I am going to now, what will we do? I'm going to drop in a heading over here. I'm going to put in the words now released. I'm going to make this be, look, if I do H1, it inherits the H1 code. If I go to H2, it inherits the H2. We're going to go over here, make this be a white, and all I'm going to do is just make this be 500 and just do uppercase like that. In fact, no, we won't do uppercase. We've already done uppercase, isn't it? Now released. Yeah, we'll do now released like that. So we've got now released, The Queen of the Fog is the new novel by blah, 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 added in a bit of text, da, 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 da. I think, you know, in fact, the queen of the, it's not the queen, it's the, look, I'm tripping over my own words now. Queen of the Fog. No, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Queen of the Fog. Let's put that in italic. Look at this. This is where I'm being very particular now about the way my words look. Stuff like that. This is all fake text, by the way. Don't sit there trying to go buy the book because you're not going to really find anything. I'm going to go over now and just give some padding to my container. I'm going to go with about 100 there and 100 on the bottom. So it's got, you know, a bit of spacing out there. We're now going to go over to container number 2 and we're going to drop in a image into container number 2. I'm going to click here and I'm going to pick this image here. By the way, you know, you might add in an image where you got lots of white space around it. If I just click edit over here, you might want to hit crop and get rid of all of that spacing. I'm not going to do that just now for that image. But here I've got a image like this. I'll show it to you. This has been created in Canva, completely fake image. Don't go looking for this book, all right? It's by W Squadron, Queen of the Fog. I got an image, got some lettering, transposed or got the some of the lettering to sit behind it and in front of it. I think it's quite a good book cover actually, you know, so hey, you know, if you want a book cover, get in touch. But anyway, let's just go and insert that and we have our book cover. We're going to set it to be a full resolution. I'm going to set it to be right aligned. I'm going to go to the style and I'm going to make this be about 300. I'm just thinking about this in my head now. No, that's too big. We've got to go 250. We're going to go 250. This is where I slightly go, what are we doing here? We're going to go with 250, okay? I'm now going to go to the Advanced tab, and I'm actually going to decrease the top of that. So watch what happens when I do this. I think it's going to be 160. 160. Ooh, I think I'm close. No, it's 170. There we go. We're going to go with a 170. But can you see it's now cut off? Because the Z index of the hero banner is higher than this. Remember we gave this like a value of 1. This is automatically has a 0. So I'm just going to go over to my container. I could do this on just the image, by the way. But I'm going to do it on the entire container. I'm just going to say give this a 3. Look at that. It's now completely in front like that. So we get a nice overlap. In fact, I think we can go with about 200. What do you think? I think we can go 200. Yeah, you know, if we're going to go 170, we might as well go with the 200. So we get a bit more of a nicer overlap there. What we're now going to do, though, is underneath her is drop in some further images. So I'm going to drop in another image over here. And this is now going to say, well, where do you go and buy the book? Where'd you get it from? And this is where I'm now going to pull over some images. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to hit update, go over to my media library. And can you see these images? They're quite big. So I'm just going to crop them a little bit and just do, didn't want to do that. Let me do that again. Crop. Let me do, if it ever covers the entire image, never save because it will completely kill off and leave you with no image left there. Let's go to the second one, edit that image. Again, you know, I could have done this before the video, but I just want to show you how I like to bring things in and then I crop it and whatever, because then I have full on control. If you go and crop it or scale it or do something to the image, and when you've deleted it off your hard drive, you're now stuck with whatever you had here. Whereas if I do save, right? Sorry, let me just come back here. If I was to go into, say, any one of these images and I hit edit image, can you see over here it says restore? I can restore it back to how it was when it was first loaded. But if you edit it outside and then you go, oh, it's the wrong scale. Oh, I cropped off too much. You got to kind of start all over again, right? So I say save yourself the hassle. So we're going to go with available. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? Don't want to click that. Let's go back to the page. Let's just refresh it for a moment. The reason we're refreshing it is because we want to bring over the latest modified versions. Down here, we click on that and we're going to click available on Amazon like that. In fact, this is the point now where I'm going to click on the container. I'm going to say make this be a row. Okay, I'm going to say make everything be on the end. I'm going to say do a wrap like that. I'm going to say make everything, no, not be on there, make everything be at the start so we get that nice overlap effect. We're going to go over to our image. We are going to go over to the custom width, and I could, if I want, just make this be a full width like that. So it pushes, basically it takes up the full width of that container. I'm going to go with a 125 for now like that, and I'm now going to duplicate, and we're going to duplicate again, and now I get all three of them in a line. I'm going to go over here and just change this to be the App Store. Because everything is wrapping, I'm going to go to the alignment here, and I'm going to say Flex Start. Watch the buttons when I hit that. They move up. Because at the moment, they're coming down because the height of this is kind of impacting on the one next door to it. But by doing this now, I mean, look, what you would do is you would go to your Amazon, this image, and you would say this is now a custom link to wherever you can buy your Amazon book, right? Wherever you can go and buy it. And then you would also probably say open in a new window as well. Let's pretend that went over there, right? So now they can go and get the book like that. I mean, you could lay this out however you want. You can make this be a little bit more stylish. I mean, I could go here and do something like that if I want, or even have it going over to the right, but maybe give this a bit of right margin. So maybe go with about 50 like that. So it's now not completely over there, but it's looking a little bit better. So now what we get is, if I show you the full page now, can I just hide my face for a moment? I know some of you actually hate my face. So now we get this nice little layout like this. Yeah, and we got this little bit of an overlap going on there. Boom, hey, I'm back. Let me just move my face, okay? Because my face is so important for the purposes of this video. Right, now you have to kind of make a decision over, do you want to have that much spacing at the top? Maybe not. You know, maybe you want to shrink it down because you got quite a bit of a gap going on there. So if I was to now do 0, this is what happens. So have a think now with, you might go hundreds way too much. So, you know, you might want to go with 60 or 80 or just, you know, 70. I think 70 works fine, you know, for what we're doing there. And it still works pretty well with the overlap we've got there with his face. And we get, I think it's nice how it works, I think. You know, we get this overlap and you get this book appearing. Now, here's one little tip I would give you, though. When you are doing the book, it's not about, I have to say, I don't always recommend motion effects. But I am going to say, in this example, I actually do think a fade in up isn't a bad effect over here. And I'm actually going to do it on those buttons as well. So I'm going to go motion effect, and I'm going to say fade in up like that. And I'm going to copy that and go paste style and paste style as well there. We now view this page. Now you saw the image come in there, and as I scroll up, the buttons came. So you could delay them, so it comes in with like ding 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 like that if you wanted to. But I think just coming up all in one go isn't a bad idea actually. And look, you've got space down here to add in further buttons as well. And I think that's looking pretty good. And we just did that pretty quick, in my opinion. Right, remember, don't move on to your next section or container or anything until you've checked how it looks in the mobile. And look, you can clearly see what's going on now. We have a bit of a problem. Number one, let's go to the container. Let's undo all of the padding. I'm going to go with 60 from the top. Don't know why it's got -1 there. 60 from the bottom. And I'm going to go 20 and 20 on the left and right. Okay, we got our text, our size changes, but now we have a bit of an issue with our image. Well, not really, you just zero it out. So on our desktop, it will look like that. Great, but on the mobile, it now looks like this. And we're going to go with a 378, just so we can see the sizing. On the content, I can change this to be like that, so it's more central. I can even ensure that there is no marginal padding or anything like that. Then we have the issue over our buttons. Well, again, don't worry about that. I can go over here, make sure that that is centered, and I can now go to the size and say, actually make this be, is it 250? No, I think 250 is the wrong one. We're going to go with 200 like that. And I'm now just going to copy that, paste that style on there, paste the style onto there. At the minute, our buttons are all like kind of, you know, moved over to the right hand side. So we're going to click on the child container, which contains the image and these other images, And I'm just going to go over here now and just say justify the content to be in the center. So on the mobile, they're now going to be in the center like that. Okay. And you go to your desktop, they're back in their standard place. I mean, that's how simple and easy it is. Let's now just go over and now let's create another now section. And this one now will be more about like the author and what the author's achieved. And look, you can make it up as you go along. You can be quite funky with it. I mean, look, to be really simple, I could just duplicate that container there. Get rid of the images, get rid of I could get rid of everything if I want and just create a brand new container, add new container, but I'm just going to do this for now, right? Because that will remember the padding I added in for the mobile, and this is how you can make your life so much more efficient. So let's just go over here and let's replace the text that I had already. So look, I know that does look like quite a bit of text here, but then again, on author websites, it's not uncommon to see bits of text like that. They are writers at the end of the day, but don't make it too busy. And if you had a lot of text, I would say split it up into maybe several, 2 or 3 separate little images. In fact, we are going to do that, okay? But I'll come back onto that in a moment. We are going to split this section up. I am going to give this a slightly different background color, though. We're going to go something with a lot more bright. I mean, it is quite bright, yeah. Don't get me wrong there, but we are going to go for a different look on there. And we're now just going to drop in an image like that. I'm going to make sure it's a full resolution, and I'm actually going to make this be 100% like that. So rather than using pixels, I've now gone with 100%. And here's why. I'm now going to duplicate that image because I've got a bit of text down here. In fact, no, I just said to you, didn't I? We were going to split it up. Right. We're now just going to stay with me on this, okay? Stay with me on this. I'm now going to just get rid of some of this text. So where it suddenly says he currently resides in with his wife and everything, just change this container to be flex end. I mean, in fact, it doesn't even need to wrap, to be honest. It just needs to be sat at the bottom like that rather than in the center or anything. So I've just sat that to be at the bottom so it's more in line over there. I'm just going to go over to this container and I am going to reduce the bottom here to be 35 like that because we're going to duplicate it in a moment. What I am going to do though is before we move on to that is just double check. So we've got the padding inherited because we duplicated it. We've got the 2020, you can see it there, and we've got our image. And the bottom, I'm going to make this be I'm actually going to make that be about 20 like that. That's looking okay. That's looking fine. By the way, you would do this for the tablet as well. I'm just rushing through it ever so slightly. Now we're going to duplicate the items like that. And I am now going to just pick this container up and I'm going to move it to swap over. So now we've got the 2 containers, child containers inside, have basically just gone like that, okay? Go with that image there. And what I'm now going to do is to fill up this space that we have down here because it looks a little bit off, is I'm going to copy this image and I'm just going to paste over here. And what I'm going to do is add in 2 smaller images. Okay, so just stay with me on this. I'm going to go over here. I could add in a gallery, by the way, but I'm just going to add in 2 images so I have a bit more control over how they look. Now, these 2 images, we're going to change the width of these, okay, and I'm going to change them to be, I'm just going to copy that and apply that style to this one as well. So what we now get is 2 images like that. There's still more to do. We're going to go over to our child container. We're now going to set this to be a row. Right, don't worry, I know it looks really, really weird and funny. Set it to be a wrap, so we're now almost back to where we needed to be. Go over to our image, and where we have our advanced, I'm now going to set the width of this to be a custom, and it's going to be a percentage, and I'm going to say 48%. Is that right? Yeah, 48%. So both of these are now 48%, and I've now realized I made a mistake here. Let me just go back to the size of this. This actually needs to be 100, because the width, the custom width is 48%, but these need to be 100% of that 48. So I made a bit of a boo-boo there, but let me excuse it on that. And what we now have is, I don't know about you, but it looks kind of nice because you now have like big image and you got 2 smaller images there. Let me now just adjust the size of this because this needs to go back to being 70 at the bottom, but we're going to change the top to be 35. So, I mean, you could shrink this. I mean, I think actually it's all right without the 0 there. I think that looks better. On the mobile, though, we're going to have quite a lot of images here. So let me just check how that is looking. I don't know, I think the two small images there look quite okay. What do you think? I think it's looking okay, actually. I think you get that image break, you get a bit more text, you get it. I think that's looking all right. I like it. We're going to go with it. To hell with whatever you think. No, we're going to go with it, okay? So what we now have is this kind of like, pretty decent looking layout at the moment. Hey, let's go a stage further. Let me now just copy everything that we did over there, right? And let me now just paste that entire section here. And now this image where we've got the overlap, let's just put that back to be 0 like that. So we still got our text over here. And I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to dump it. I'm going to get this all wrong now because look, it's now gone in the wrong place. Let me just go to the navigator. Let me just pop the image to be above it like that. In fact, you know what? We'll leave that slide in effect. I don't mind that being there. I'm going to change this image to be completely in the middle. Get rid of that. Get rid of the right over there. And I'm sorry if it feels like I'm rushing, but if you watch it and pause and replay, you'll totally get it, all right? Come on, give me a break. I ain't got time to think of the text for everything on it. So I'll just pop some lorem ipsum in. Let's just change this image to be a different one. Just popped in another image. Again, this is a fake book cover I made on Canva. If you ever want some tips and tricks on how to create your 3D book cover, let me know. It's up to you. If you don't want to know, then that's up to you as well. I'm just going to go over to this container though, and this child container, I'm going to give it a little bit more padding because we will have I don't have to give it any extra padding. No, we won't give it any padding. I'll explain why in a moment. Anyway, I'm going to, let me just get this right now. I'm going to ensure that this container, if I go to the layout, everything is in the center like that. The text over here is totally fine. This image is in the center, which I think it should be. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's in the center because you've got this shadow effect over here. So you might want to just kind of, again, you would just put your buttons in over here to point to where they need to point to. Okay, right. Now what we're going to do is just duplicate this image and we're going to move it now to sit here underneath that title. And I'm going to swap this image out now to be another one. Again, another cover I made on Canva. Thank you very much. I don't mind all the applause that you're probably dishing out to me, or probably not, actually. Well, let's just duplicate that. This is a bit pain. It would have been easier if I just duplicated the whole flipping column, right? Why am I doing it in this lazy, deranged way that I am? But, I'm just being I'm just trying to get it over to you how you could do it and just move things over. Now, obviously, I've got to go over here and set this to be wrap like that. In fact, I'm just going to click on this column and just do paste style like that. So now everything is kind of pasted over. Now, can you see the issue we got? Things are not in line. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, okay? Firstly, I'm going to go to container 1, and I'm going to ensure that this is all on flex end. Everything is pushed to the bottom. Now I'm going to go over to the second container, and I'm going to go with flex end. Everything is pushed to the bottom. Does that make sense? I didn't have to add a spacer or extra padding or anything to get it down there. It is now down there. It's down, baby. It is down. Right. Slight issue we got, though, is because everything in here at the moment is kind of set to center, we've got this kind of going on at the moment. This is where you can spend a lot of time messing around with the directions and all of that, and then you just end up getting yourself in a bit of a mix or a problem. So I'm just going to say, make it be on the start. Go to your first button. Am I on the button? Sorry, the image. And I'm going to give it a bit of a left margin, and you'll be able to get it to the point where you need it to be. And that is basically fine as far as I can tell. I mean, this book cover at the moment, this background here, you might want to change it and go for a completely darker color, something like that if you want. So that you got a bit of a range of color schemes going on there, or you could go back to that dark blue color. I've now just gone and switched it to be a much darker color like that. It's not black, but it's like a very dark charcoaly color there. Now, remember, before you do anything else, make sure you hit update. You could have 3 columns, right? You could have anything you want. In fact, no, sorry, there was one thing I need to mention before I go on to mobile. Look how close these are currently to one another. I need some more spacing. So this is where I'm now going to go to the Ooh, I nearly deleted that. Go to your parent container. Let me just check, 7070. Yeah, go to the layout, and over here we have the gap between the elements. So if I do this, look, can you see what's happening now? So just bear in mind that if you start to overdo it too much, things are going to start overlapping a lot. So I would say just go to a point where you know you are safe. So this was like about 50. So we have a bit of a gap going on there. And I think that's looking all right. I have to say, though, I think that's way too close to these items. Let's just go over here, go to advanced, and I would say give me about 30 like that. I think that's, yeah, I don't know. I'm not having a think here. Yeah, I think we need to do the same on this one, don't we? Let me just give this about 30 on the bottom as well. Yeah, it'd be nice if the text matched the height of that. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, look, that's looking a little bit better. Right, let's just go check on the mobile. I like to go with 378, as I've mentioned many times now. We get the novels bit. Again, here you might just want to rearrange things. So let's just pop that onto the start to get his novels over. Just make sure that was on the left as well. Yes, it is. We got our text, which is controlled by the font clamp. This is where, though, at the moment, our image is a certain size, and you might want to either make it smaller or leave it like that. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to go over here, though, and I am going to do the same thing here, where I move the image over to the left-hand side a little bit. A 50 there, and I'm just going to copy, paste style. Look, there's many ways you can approach this, okay? And because of this tutorial, I am maybe being a bit, I don't want to say blasé about the way I'm building it, but I'm just kind of building it in such a way that I hope it's going to really make sense to, there you go, look. So everything is now kind of consistent with how it looked above. So you've got your books and all of that, and everything is so far working pretty well. Now to round off this tutorial, I'm just going to create a contact section in now. So what we'll do is we will use, no, we'll just do it from scratch. Let's just do it from scratch. We'll just do, we'll do another 2-column approach, okay? I'm going to give this the same color as that bluey specky color, something like that, whatever it is. That color, pilot color, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called now. I should know this, but I can't remember. And I'm just going to put in a form that we're going to stick in. Where will we stick the form? Stick the form. In fact, we'll stick the form in over there. We'll do something like that. We'll have a send box, and I'm going to make sure the button is something like, I'm not always a fan of the stretchy button where it goes all the way across, or, you know, maybe you want to have the button on the right hand side, but I think the button on the left works pretty well here. Typography, look, I'm not going to spend too much time on this now because I'm starting to actually feel a bit tired, believe it or not, but I think it was 1.6 I went for, and we'll make it be a uppercase like that. And we'll change the button to actually say touch, get in touch, get on touch. Should we do get in touch? Get in touch. Get in touch. Get in touch. Contact me. Get in touch. Pick up the feather. Oh, I know what we'll do, because he's a fantasy rider, isn't he? Send the crow. Send the crows. Send the crows. What a stupid thing, right? Now, this bit over here could be really good for, I think, some extra text, maybe. Oh, where did that go? Did I not paste that text there? There you go, paste stars, sorry. And I'm just going to pick this up as well. And I'm just going to pop this in over here. We're going to pop this in above there. And we're going to say contact web. No, contact web. Contact him. Contact the author. Contact the writer. Contact web. Contact web will be fine, all right? Stop overthinking it. What am I doing, man? Let me just duplicate some of the stuff here, because you might be like, you know, you might want to put in some further details, like, for instance, you might want to put in like a contact number. So let's say you were to go and doing something like, I don't think the writer's going to put contact number, is he? No. So you might want to put something like an email address. So I'm just going to go with info web squad. Squadron, right? Like that. Let's just pick that up. Go over here to mail, and I'm going to change this to be a mail to, like this. Okay, so now that becomes a mail to link, and obviously you do get a different color, because if you remember, if we go to update, and if we go over here to site settings, do you remember I did it right at the start? If we go to typography, that is our color, but now you might want to change your mind and go, no, we're going to make it white. Can you see what it's done? It's changed the color. Is that kind of starting to kind of make sense? Or you might want to go with something like that even, which I think actually works better. I think that works better. Let's do it at that. You know, and this is where, like, you know, I mean, I'm talking like this is a real flipping person. This is all flipping fake. What am I doing? You know, you can pad this out to be how you want. You know, you can make it look pretty cool and good and all of that. And again, once you've done whatever you've done here, and by the way, you know, with the form, stylize that, add extra fields in, minimize the number of fields you got. In fact, I'm going to go over here and just make this be about 3 fields like that. In fact, let's make this be a little bit smaller. I don't think it needs to be that big. Let's go with 50% over there. And for the email, make the email also be 50%. I'm not here to talk to you about how to set your email up, because obviously you would go in now to your email and make sure you got the right email address here for where everything goes. But let's just go back over to here, the message, and I think that can be, yeah, all right, we'll go with something like that. We're going to go over to our mobile. Always important. I cannot stress this enough. Do you know how many people I know, they built a website, they've done like 10 pages, they get to the end and they're like, oh, I did not think of my mobile responsiveness. And I'm like, you get on with it, right? Get on with it. Okay, look, there you go. You could stylize it again, all of that. And obviously, the bit you now want to end right at the bottom is going to be your footer with your copyright, all rights reserved, maybe some other details. If I'm honest, I'm not going to do that here because I'm kind of just showcasing how this works and operates. But what we haven't done is added in any like menu system, have we? So you can't like jump around to any of these items, because we've got now released about Web Squadron and get his novels, and then we've got contact me like that at the bottom, right? As a, you know, a page or something like that. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Number one, underneath now released, we're going to drop in a anchor, and then we're going to add in a menu like a button, so that when you click it, it takes you to that feature. This is really quick and really easy, all right? And I hope you haven't fallen asleep. Go and get a menu anchor. And I'm going to drop the menu anchor to be just over there, okay? And I'm going to call this anchor to be latest. However you write it, make a note. If you put uppercase letters, you got to make a note of that. Uppercase, lowercase letters matter. So we're going to call it latest, okay? We're now going to go down here to the about, and we're going to stick another one in over here, and we're going to call it be anchor. By the way, you know where you see this little bit of grey thingy-majy appearing? Don't worry about it, because when you view it, it's not actually there, okay? So now we have a did I just call it anchor? What a prat. Let's call it about. We've got latest and we have about. Now we're going to go down to get his novels. So we're going to go with anchor. All right, I'm just going to call this one anchor novels. And then the last one, remember, you might have had some further areas, okay? I'm just doing this in a bit of a like a quickish way. I'm just going to go and add in one here now above the contact, and this will be pretty much, you can work out what it's going to be called. It's just going to be called contact. Let me now show you the really quick, easy way you do this. If I go over to see his latest books, where we have link, I'm going to leave it as hashtag, and I'm going to go with see his latest books. I'm going to go with novels like that. In fact, it's not even latest book, because The Queen of the Fog is his latest book. But just humour me on this, okay? Let me now hit update. And on ask him a, oh, come on, click. Ask him a question. I'm going to change that one to be a contact. Right, let's just refresh that. Let's now just view this page as it updates. If I now click this, it goes to get his novels. Did you see that? We went all the way down. Ask him a question. Kaboom. We've now gone down to contact web, right? That's how slick and easy and simple it was. Like, seriously, Super, super easy. But what if you now want to have a menu system over here? By the way, you can add in a button as well that takes you back to the top. I've got other tutorials on that. Go and look in our video for return to top. We've got that, okay? So what about now if we want to add in a menu system over here? Well, we can't just go over here and pick a nav menu because, well, we can't in a way, okay? Because it's not part of our menu system because they're not pages. They're just sections of or parts of a page. But we can get around that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and create our own menu. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our WordPress dashboard, go to Appearance, go to Menus, right? We're now going to create a new menu. And we're going to call this menu, we're going to call it, here you go, we'll call this menu, we'll call it Author. Because then I'll remember that it's the author one. We hit Author. Okay, now look, I've got some pages on here, but I don't want it to go to any of these pages at all. So what we're going to do is create a custom link. Here's the custom link. I'm going to pick up the URL for our page, right? Like that, which is like da-da-da-da-da-da. Our page is actually called Author. And I'm now going to put the backslash, whatever you want to call it, hashtag, and I've forgotten what it was now. Oh, latest. And then we have latest. In fact, I'm going to copy all of that. And I'm going to call this new release, like that. New release. New releases. We'll call it new releases, okay? Or latest release. No, we'll call it latest release. Latest release. I can't think of the words. We'll call it latest release. I hit add. That's now added. That's the word, and the link will go to where I've set it. Now let's do the URL again here. This one is going to be about. So we're going to change that to be about and hit that add to the menu. Let's now add in the other one, and we're going to call this one novels. And we're going to call this one novels, like that. So that goes over there. And now we're going to do the last one, which was contact, wasn't it? So if you've got other sections in there, you could add them in, right? So let's go with contact. Let's hit add menu, and there we go. Now we hit save menu. That's it, save menu. That's all we've done. Let's go back over here and hit return, just to make sure it pulls everything over. Just remember, if you do anything in WordPress and you don't regularly update, you might not realize it's not actually brought anything, or it's not brought through the latest changes. So let's now go here, right? And let me now just go in and pull through. Now I'm just for the purpose of what I'm doing, I'm just going to drop, in fact, no, I'm doing it in the wrong place. I need to be in my header container over here. So let me now go and get my nav menu again, like that. And I'm going to drop that to be over there. Now, at the moment, it's actually here. It is actually, it's probably, I mean, have a thinker now about your layout with how you want it to sit. So is it going to sit to the left or right of the social icons, for instance? In fact, there's part of me that actually feels like the social icon should sit further down in the contact me section. So I'm just going to copy these for a moment. Stay with me on this, right? I'm just going to copy these. I'm going to dump them actually in over here, and I'm going to put them on the left-hand side like that, and just check how that's looking. It's still looking okay. It's still looking okay. Yeah, it's looking all right. We'll go with that. We'll go with that, okay. In fact, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to give this, I'm going to get rid of some of the left margins. It's proper right up against it. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit okay. Yeah, that's all right. I'll let it go. I'm just very particular about the way I build things. Right, we've got the nav menu, right? Let's just change the style of that to be a white nav menu. Now, at the moment, it says the word get lost. The reason it says get lost is because it's not pointing to the right nav menu, all right? So just give it a break, everyone, okay? I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go and pick, where is it? There it is, author. So now we get latest release, about, novel, contact. I don't want any underline. I really hate the underline effect. I cannot stress to you how much I hate the underline effect. I really do hate it, despise it like a tyrant. If you are going to have a mobile drop down, always ensure it's on full width. Decide, does it activate on the tablet or the mobile? You know, your hamburger, is it left aligned, right aligned? You know, your text, how you'll see in a moment. I'm going to have it on left aligned. I'm going to go to my style and I'm going to go to my typography. In this case, rather than doing like the font clamp and all of that, I'm just going to go in and go make it medium, make it be an REM of about 2. Something like that. I mean, look, this is where you have to have a think now about your layout in terms of how do you want this to look? Do you want this to be more on the left-hand side or not? If I was to go over to the header container, though, the slight problem you have is if you do start, it does this. If you do end, it does this. If you do space between, it does that. If you do that, you do that, and all of that. I'm going to go to my image and I'm now going to, I mean, look, you could mess around with all of this, but it's not going to get you anywhere. If you go and start hitting order, it just rearranges where it sits within all the items you got over there. And I'm going to tell you now, if you start messing around with the containers, you go, oh, well, what if I do this? And what if I do that? What if I wrap it? What if I do that? It's not really going to make much difference. Okay, so I'm going to set this to be the end, go over to my image, and I'm going to do something a little bit dangerous. I'm going to go and set this to be an absolute. So this is now going to be set in position for that container, okay? And then obviously it will change. Obviously you're scrolling down anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm now going to just adjust where its actual position is. I mean, you can do that over here as well with the vertical. So I'm going to go, so give me about 20 from the right, from the left, and then from the top, I'm going to just say increase. You might just need to put a ruler on the screen at this point, okay? So trust me, you're going to want to make sure that looks all right, and that does actually look fine. If we now go over to our nav menu, which you can just see over there, you can just see it over there. I'm just going to make sure that the style of that has, where has it gone? There you go, toggle menu, make that be a white, and I'm going to ensure it's got a completely transparent color. I'm not stylizing the menu and all of that, because you basically just go in, right, okay, to your main menu, your drop down menu. You're just going to start to make sure, in fact, do you know what, let's just do it. Let's just go with the 2 over there for now. Let's set it to be a 4 as well. Decide your background color, which I think we will go with. We'll go with that dark piloty, whatever blue, whatever is that color. I don't even know what it is. We'll go with the blue, something like that. And I am going to just click on the container. And rather than it being on the end, I'm going to go with space evenly. Oh, man, no. Space evenly is not going to work, is it? No, because I made it absolute, you see, which I don't want to change. So let me just pop this back to be on the end like that. And move it over a little bit to be on the right. Centralize it a bit. And you can now see that this is not centralized very well because of the offsetting that we've got. So I'm just going to adjust that to be something like that. There we go. If I go to responsinator.com, which is totally free to use, and it's great if you just want to test how does your website look on a tab. By the way, I haven't done it on the tablet, so ignore what we've got there. But if I was to just show you this page now and you click that menu system, can you see what it's doing? It looks a little bit cramped, so let's just very quickly just go. I hate it. You know when something doesn't look right? On the nav menu, when you're in the style tab, go down to the drop down, and I'm just going to give the vertical padding about 20. That should be okay, I think. So we go back over here and just refresh this. Look, I mean, look, it looks all right. And then you click that, look, it's a bit more spaced out now. And if I was to go and click novels, it takes you down to the novels section. Okay, we could have a return to top button if we want. I mean, let me just go back over to our actual page here. And we're back over here. You can see the items. If I was to go and click contact, it takes us completely down to the It doesn't go completely there because we don't have another item underneath contact to push it up. But if I was to just take you all the way back over here, look, the about. And that's as with creating a just a bespoke menu system. Now, I hope for anyone out there that's thinking of creating like an author website. I mean, this is I've just done it on the fly, got some images, had a rough idea. It's not fantastical, but I think it's a damn good start for a one-page website. If you're an author or a writer, you just want to get something out there. Hey, I'm Imran, Web Squad, and I hope you like, subscribe, share, and follow. I'll see you soon.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go Wild in a bag,